Okay, everybody, welcome back to Sports Hacks. I'm your host, Damien Bowman. I'm with my good friend, Mr. Josh Flagner. Josh, how are you?
Oh man, I'm good. All the complaining I just did before we started recording doesn't count anymore. I'm doing great.
We are the day after the big midterm elections, and we are a couple days before the Browns play their next game, and I'm sure the Cavs will lose to somebody within the next 48 hours, and the Indians have successfully pissed off their entire fan base. So welcome back to Cleveland, I guess, right?
I mean, are we gonna talk about all of those things?
No, I mean maybe. I don't know. We'll see where we get. But there's a lot there. I mean, there's a lot obviously to talk about, and I don't think any of those topics are necessarily completely off limits. So we're gonna do a little different format for this. Josh and I are gonna kind of do like Q&A. He's gonna ask me a question, I'll answer. I'll ask him. And it kind of goes from there. Whatever we talk about is whatever we talk about. Ready, Josh?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay, let's go.
So here's the first question I have for you, and this is truly in the vein of the Ask Me Anythings. So I will pretend like you're famous, and people will really care about the answer here. You and I have known each other for X number of years, 5 now, maybe.
Sure, probably longer, but yeah,
Okay.
that's fine.
Maybe it is longer. I don't. Everything kind of melds together at this point for me. But we initially started working on More Than a Fan together. You came on to More Than a Fan. That wasn't how we met, but you early on in our friendship came to More Than a Fan and helped do millions of things. Did tons of stuff, everything from really complicated back-end things that anyone who perused the site or knew us probably don't know about. But if anything looked good, it was Damien's doing, and if anything was broken, it was probably me screwing something up in the hosting. And then, we wrote together, we did things on and off, we podcasted a whole lot, we even for a moment had 6 or 7 podcasts and did live shows and the whole thing. Like, we did tons of shit, and it was all very fun, and for me, it was a labor of love. I loved it. I really wanted to be bad at sports writing and or sports media stuff, and and that worked out for me for a while. I had the ability to be bad at that stuff in online and in like audio media. So for me, it's easy. I can explain why I wanted to do it. Why did you want to do it? Because I don't ever remember, like, I knew I always wanted to have, that was always my goal. I don't ever remember you saying, hey, I want to do this kind of stuff. You just kind of did it.
It's a good question. I wasn't expecting this one, obviously. Well, I've always liked radio, and I think that, kind of shows itself in what we do now with the podcast and what we did back then. And I really like college football. And I don't like it as much now as I did back then just because of everything that's going on in my life with work and officiating and all the other nonsense that's going on. And I'd be lying if I said the impact of concussions didn't have a part to do with that. Less than love, 100% love. So, I mean, as much as I enjoy college football and football in general, I don't enjoy it as much as I used to. But as far as the writing and everything, I'm actually not a great writer, which is why I don't write that much anymore. But I just got roped into, I think the first one was, top 10 college football fan bases or the royalty of college football teams or whatever that was. And it just kind of, went from there. And then we were building site after site. And obviously I love motorsports. I mean, I go to the Indy 500 every year. I go to Mid-Ohio every year. And it just kind of went from there. And then here we are probably, honestly, 6 or 7 years later. And we've kind of flipped the script. Now I'm kind of running it, and you're kind of writing when you can because you have a family, and I'm just kind of floating through air, and here we are, But, if you had asked me 6 or 7 years ago would I be doing this now, I would say absolutely not. And if you probably asked me 6 or 7 years ago would I've ever started, I probably would have said absolutely not.
Well, right, me too. I mean, I never knew – I never in my wildest dreams thought that, more than my immediate family and like 7 people I went to high school with would know my name at any point during my late 20s to early 30s. So, any little bit of fun that I got to have because of that was fantastic. I guess I always wondered why you volunteered to put in so much work, because I mean, for anyone listening, if you remember any of what we did with More Than a Fan and MTAF and the .TV and the podcasts and the college football roundtable and the motorsports site and all the build out and all the frankly bullshit that we did.
That's a lot of work.
I mean,
holy crap.
Damien he put in, I mean, for every minute that I volunteered my time to do all that stuff, Damien probably volunteered too. I mean, he was maybe even more, just instrumental in getting that all done. And I guess I never thought to just sit down and like ask you why you did all that stuff. It always was a mystery.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I guess I never thought about it either. I mean, my friends will tell you, and you know this, like once I get into something, it's like I'm sort of like a perfectionist.
Sure.
So I just have to get it done, you know, and as you know, and other people that we know, like sometimes that means doing stuff on holidays and stuff, you know, at 3:00 in the morning or 12:00 in the afternoon or whenever, you know, it just kind of fits in whenever. But, you know, it's crazy. I mean, to go back to the other point that you made, I mean, not that we are famous, because we're not, but I mean, of all the followers I have or on, you know, Twitter, and all the people that we have in common, I would say probably 80% of them who didn't write for More Than a Fan or Sports Hacks or College Football Roundtable or Campus Press Box or whatever, I mean, are all from More Than a Fan, you know, and the people that wrote for us and the people that were readers and the people that, you know, this and that. I mean, it's crazy how, you know, certain things just kind of manifest itself in so many different ways. And, you know, you think about all the people that have written for you and I over the past 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 or 9 years, you know, even if you go back to, you know, Lisa and Deb and all those people who you started More Than a Fan with. I mean, think about all the people that wrote, you know, 8 years ago or whatever that was.
I tell you, it's weird, and it's such a tenuous connection to success for me, and I fully admit that it's a tenuous connection to success, or, you know, to local fame or stardom or whatever. But the fact that very early on I got to work with so many people who have like real media jobs in the industry locally in Cleveland, whether it's sports media or not. I mean, that is, even if because, you know, you fall out of touch with people and you don't talk to your friends as much and you kind of get older and everybody does their own thing. And even if I never sit down and have dinner with or talk to, you know, any of those men and women that we worked with in the beginning of More Than a Fan, it will always be probably the thing I'm most grateful for. Like, I'm so humbled by the fact that, like, you and I worked with Hayden so much.
Hayden Grove. Absolutely.
And now, I mean, and whatever, I understand that Hayden isn't exactly, you know, he's not at Bristol, Reading, ESPN. So, I mean, we can argue about where the pinnacle of success is for that, but just for the fact that, like, he's really doing what he's doing now. And, you know, Stephanie Metzger is doing what she's doing now. And, you know, they're
Ryan Isley.
Yeah. I mean,
Ryan wrote for ESPN this fall.
Yeah. Those guys, just the work that everybody did, I guess that's the thing that I'm the most proud of, I guess, is like, I got to know everyone and got to work with them and do all that stuff.
Yeah, and I'm sure we're probably missing a few people, but like I just mentioned, I mean, Ryan Isley, who worked at Cleveland.com as a freelance now, and worked at ESPN as a not as a replacement, but kind of as a I don't know, substitute for their NFL guy who was out for a couple weeks. And I mean, Hayden was with the Associated Press. I mean, he wasn't full time, but the AP is the AP, and now he works for Cleveland.com or the Plain Dealer or whatever they call themselves now. And
yeah, I don't know which one it is either.
No, nobody has a clue, really. I don't even know if they know anymore. They don't even have a house anymore. I think the city bought it and sold it or whatever happened with that. So who knows where they're writing from? Probably the middle of 480. And then Stephanie Metzger, who, you know, was with WKYC Channel 3 now, I believe, right? And
yes.
And was with Lorraine Morning Journal or one of their papers, Great House or whatever that is. So, I mean, she's kind of been a few places, and I'm sure, like I said, we're missing a few people who are, you know, who have gone from here to other places.
Yeah, and then that's the thing. Like, even there's too many people, and you know, we've had hundreds of people right under that one of the More Than a Fan mastheads. I mean, literally hundreds.
Yeah.
and there's so many people who, even if they you didn't run out and get a job with, Cleveland.com or one of the locals with sports or anything, they're still doing the stuff that they love, and maybe they moved to a different blog or a different website, or maybe they're doing stuff on their own, or maybe, whatever it is, even just the fact that you write for 6 months and you're making deadlines and you're improving and you're getting edited and you're doing all that stuff, and then you get to use the things that you learned in a successful communications job or something. I mean, not that I'm some sort of a public relations or communications mentor or anything, far from it, but to just use that experience and be a success in your life no matter what it is. Like I said, it's my favorite thing.
And it's funny that we talk about Hayden. I mean, he's the one that we probably have the best relationship with right now. And obviously, I mean, Jeff Rich is still around, and Warren, who wrote for me at Campus Press Box, works for Rivals now. He's a Kentucky student and is full time with them. And Mike Wilson, but who writes for Pacific Takes and an NBA blog, I believe. But the one story that I always remember about Hayden is he got a chance to, through Gary Snyder, our common friend, got to cover the NCAA tournament, and he wrote that 50,000 word epic on what it was like to write the NCAA tournament. And it was just the funniest thing ever.
Yeah,
right. And he's like, oh my God, I can't believe this. And now if you ask him, he'd probably roll his eyes and give you that smile he gives. He goes, man, that's crazy. That was probably only 5 years ago, if that long.
Right. Well, and the cool thing about that is, we look at him now and we look at the job that he has, and maybe in within the 5 years since that happened, I guess it's really possible sort of the color of coverage has changed a little bit, and the way that some of the larger mainstream places allow a little bit more bloggy type stuff, or personality in some of their coverage. But he got to go and experience being part of the media at something and write about, hey, this is the first time I've ever done this, and here's all the crazy shit that happened. I don't know if you could do that if the first time you've ever done that was working for an actual media outlet. You know what I mean?
Well, and obviously I don't know what the original vision of More Than a Fan was, but because I wasn't there, but isn't that sort of kind of what the spirit of More Than a Fan is? You go and you write about a thing and you put on a story, and then oh, hey, by the way, this is what it was like to actually cover it, to hear about, we always hear about at the NCAA tournament, you have to use the NCAA cups, but nobody knows that, because everybody would go, what do you mean you have to use NCAA cups? But that's the kind of stuff that was in that thing that he wrote that you're like, holy crap, I never knew this stuff. It doesn't make any sense, because nobody ever talks about that. Now they do, but 5 years ago, like you said, they didn't talk about that kind of stuff.
Yeah, no, certainly. And that is, I guess, I don't really know what the spirit of More Than a Fan was when I started it. I knew that I wanted to have fun and have an outlet, and I wanted to learn and teach myself how to write and communicate about sports. I had a real hunger to want to do that. And it all came from Lisa Pitts, by the way. She started an Indians blog a million years ago called 90 Feet and Running, and her, I, and Stephanie wrote for it. And I think that's also where we met Deb. But anyway, that's so long ago. I don't even remember all that kind of stuff. But I wanted to have fun, and as we got bigger and did more things, you start to want to make a little money, and you start to want to make a living, and you start to want to hey, I want to do these things in sports. And it didn't work out for whatever reason, but I feel like it would be easy to look at that and say, hey, I didn't make a ton of money, or I still have to work a regular job. I don't get to go write about sports for a living, but I still feel like... Or
you spend a ton of money.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
We shouldn't ignore that part.
We did spend a ton of money. Yes, you absolutely spent a ton of money.
Right. I think that, and not to cut you off here, I guess I am, but I think that that's the part that people don't understand is the day-to-day, the month-to-month expenses. You and I both know this. You went from, I don't know if it was GoDaddy hosting or whatever, but we'll call it GoDaddy, to some expensive plan that I talked you into, to having, multi-site, to breaking that all up, to putting it back together, all the other stuff. We go from spending, $5 a month to $25 a month to $100 a month down to $25 a month. And then I think about what I spend on all the sports hack stuff and all the different stuff that I put into it. And then I think that that's the part that people don't understand. And not that this should be a conversation about The Athletic we're about paying for what you read. But I think that that's what people don't understand is that this stuff costs money, and even if you're not paying the people who write, somebody's got to pay to put the, keep the lights on, as you always say.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think the whole thing would have been a little bit differently if the revenue model were different. But like I said, I mean, it would be easy to write it off and call it a failure because, 7 years later, I moved on with my career, and More Than a Fan is an archived site on Sports Hacks, and every now and again, you and I talk on Skype for a podcast. It'd be really easy to chalk that up and just say, man, you wasted a lot. I just don't feel like I wasted a lot. I met so many people. I have so many new friends. I have so many cool experiences. I get so many cool media-related emails. I still, like, my login for a lot of stuff still works, so that's kind of fun.
Right.
So, So, I mean, I don't know. I think it was all worth it.
So I'm going to ask you a question related to something we were talking about, Hayden, and I'm going to spin it to politics without getting political. But
sure. It's a good day for that.
Do you think it would be the worst thing in the world if a writer at, say, Fox News or the New York Times or CNN said, I'm a Democrat, and this is the facts, and this is what I think about it, and we actually knew where people stood? The reporters, I mean, the individual reporters. If they kind of had, like, in the tech industry, they call it disclosure, right? You disclose all the stocks you own and, your relationships with that person and who you cover, why you cover. Do you think it would be the worst thing in the world if we did that in politics?
No, I don't. There are a few lines I think that we need to make sure we don't cross if we do something like that, though. The first line is, and hey, look, speaking of disclosure, right? I was for a very long time in my life, throughout my teenage years, early 20s, I was very firmly, I'm responsible for myself. It's the GOP all the way. Let's not tax the rich people, and let's keep businesses going. And as I got older, I went from conservative to liberal. So now at this point in my life, my heart is fully bleeding. I'm a Democrat. I'm a liberal. I don't like all that stuff. I'm very much all that stuff. But I'll say, and I say that ahead of picking on someone from Fox News, but I just want everybody to know, like, I'm not trying to hide it or couch it. I think Fox News is super shitty. Sure. I think that there's still potential for Fox News to be a decent network, but right now in our current climate, I don't think it's going to meet that potential. But I will say, whatever you do, you do. Sinclair Media owns a ton of locals. Yeah, they do a ton of coverage that's super conservative. There's the liberal media elite does a lot of thumbing their nose at Trump in print and in media and everything. So, like, I get it. I think both sidesism is for losers. But at this point in the media, like, there's media personalities that are liberal and conservative that both suck. I think what you can't do is allow anything you do or say, if you're in the media, to be campaigning. Sean Hannity openly campaigned for Trump with the Republicans,
not good.
which is a line you cannot cross. I think. So
before I let you go on here, I think that, and not you, but I'm saying in general, I think that there is, and this is a media problem, and it's a viewer problem, and it's I guess a everybody problem, is I think that on Fox News and CNN and MSNBC, they have blurred the lines, each of them, and actually, I guess, grade them, because what's the difference between someone who reports the news and someone who's an opinion person? And I think that's not, again, I'm with you on Sean Hannity. Like, he's either a reporter and he reports, or he's an opinion guy. And I think if you're an opinion guy, you can be an opinion guy and be on television and spew your opinion. But I don't think he can, or Shepard Smith, who I actually think is very good, or Anderson Cooper, or anybody else, whatever. I think that you can either be one or the other. Now, that said, right, it's very difficult to be one or the other, because at some point, I mean, we're all humans and we all vote for who we vote for. And that's why I asked, I mean, is it okay? Like, can you have an opinion if you say, look, I'm a Republican and I voted for Donald Trump. I'm not speaking about me. I mean, I am a Republican, but I didn't vote for Trump. And I think Trump is right about this, this, and this, and I think he's wrong about this, that, and that. And by the way, this is the news for today, and report the facts as they are.
I have a hard time thinking that if you're going to do that as a talking head on television, I'm not sure that that's possible. I think that's possible in print. And I think it's probably because in media, like in television, and you have your roundtables and you have your guests and you have like everything is so reactionary. I think it becomes nearly impossible for a person to be in a conversation and not react instinctually instead of intellectually.
But don't they do that on Sunday morning football shows? I mean, isn't there like the James Brown who's just kind of like hanging out and he just kind of gives you the stuff and then he turns it over to his guys to argue about it for 5 minutes?
I mean, I guess, but on a Sunday morning football show, I think that works. I'm not sure. Like, I mean, that's what Anderson Cooper tries to do. But I don't think he can do it. Like, I guess Chuck Todd can do it on Meet the Press.
I just think, but I guess my point is like, why are we still in the 1950s journalism where we feel like these guys have to hide what they are?
Oh, no. Yeah,
right?
I agree.
If you're a Republican, just say you're a Republican. And if you're a Democrat, say you're a Democrat. And say like this and make them say, this is who I voted for. And disclosure and all that. And then that way, like when they say something like, you know, I believe Donald Trump when he says this is the largest inauguration ever, we can go, well, we know he's full of shit. He's a Republican, and we can see the actual pictures. Like, we know that.
But I guess the problem is, and the reason why I'm struggling to explain it, and maybe the reason I'm struggling to explain it is because I don't really believe the answer I gave you, I guess. I mean, I can't. Like it.
Shall we start over?
No, I mean, it feels right. Like, it feels like that's the thing that I should say, and that's the thing that I believe. But the reason why I think there need to be clearer lines is you tell me that, okay, Trump says that was the biggest inauguration ever, and we know that's bullshit because we're looking at the pictures, except for there are networks and people who will not allow their audience to look at the pictures and that works as hard as they can to make them believe that that was the biggest inauguration ever.
Correct.
So like that's where the disconnect is for me. I don't mind that there are super conservative people or podcasts or news shows or whatever. Like, I listen to Pod Save America. That is as
they do a good job.
Yeah, but I mean that's as partisan liberal as anything that exists right now. But the reason that I don't mind, like the reason that I give my time to it is because there's no facade of bipartisanship there. You know what I mean? Like they don't have a sign on the door that says, hey,
fair and balanced.
Yeah, exactly. They're not Pod Save America fair and balanced. They're Pod Save America. We're a bunch of people who used to work for Obama. We're super, super, super duper Democrat, and we're going to joke about it. Like we're honest about it. You know what I mean? And I think that buys specifically that group of guys or that group of people, because there are some very good women in that, crooked media network. But I think that buys them credibility that people from Fox News don't have. And it isn't.
Well, and I would say, hang on. I would say that there are people at CNN and who else am I missing? NBC, who aren't necessarily fair and balanced.
That's fair. That's fair. But I guess.
But obviously, Fox News is a big one who will just repeat whatever Donald Trump says, and it's not true. So I will give you that, but I just want to say
that's totally fair. And I agree that there are people I agree about that. I guess the reason that I'm using Fox News is because I'm talking about crooked media, which is like super left, and Fox.
I actually think that Wolf Blitzer had an orgasm last night when he announced that the Democrats took the House.
Right. Okay. Well,
I don't know
I did
if you
not,
saw that, but
I
it was
don't.
pretty funny.
I'm not going to watch now because that's what I'll be thinking of. That's great. Anyway, but I think that buys the crooked media people credibility, and not like among just the general, not like with anybody on the right, But with people in the middle and with people on the left and with people who were really trying to be unbiased, and it isn't because what the liberals say is true. It's because here's this group of liberals who are not afraid to tell you that, hey, like the stuff we're saying is shaded by our political beliefs. These are the policies we want, and it's because we believe these things, because we're liberals. Like they're able to have these honest conversations and pick apart their own weaknesses and things that they don't like and do like and all that because they're honest about it. They're not just saying they're fair and balanced and then just being way on one side. It's just such a dishonest look. So, you've been in and out of management a lot, and you and I have had lots and lots and lots of online conversations and conversations in Slack or offline conversations, I meant. And,
Yep.
We talk a lot about workforces and dealing with people, and, we've argued over whether or not you should fire people around the holidays. And I mean, we have gone back and forth a million times about a million things on a professional level. I feel like, I feel like that part of our relationship has helped me in some ways, right? Like I've been able to take experiences and conversations that I've had with you and use your opinions and your judgments to kind of help me through some tough situations in my professional life. It seems like, and this may not be true, but as an outside observer who knows you maybe 75% well, I mean, I don't know, right? Okay. We've never slept over or anything, but how do you, well, I mean, if you want to, how do you get to where you personally can fire people so easily? Because it's hard to me. And maybe it's because, like I said, my heart's bleeding over here, but.
Well, I'll say this, it's never easy. And I will say, for those of you who don't know me, that I've been officiating sports for about 18 years and I'm 36 years old. And being black and white and living in a world where it is what it is and seeing things for what they are has made being the actual George Clooney up in the air guy a lot easier than it should be, because it allows me to compartmentalize things when it comes to work and life, actually. So I would say it's not easy. It's not fun. It's not great when you walk into a room and this person you're looking at is going to walk out either crying or wanting to kill you or both. And it's not fun when you fire somebody that you've never met and you have to pick up the phone to have security come escort them out because you think they're going to break 50 things on their way out the door. So it's not easy and it's not fun. And I know some people probably think that I'm bragging about or whatever, like it's the best thing in the world. It's not. I've been fired. I've been there. It sucks. It's the worst day of your life, especially the older you get, because the older you get, the harder it is to find a job. And I know that. And I've been on the firing and I've been on the laying off and I've been on all the sides of it. So I know what it is. And the person who picks the people who doesn't get a job anymore, and the person who picks who gets to stay, and the person who writes somebody up, and the person who doesn't write people up, like all levels of management I've been at. I mean, obviously not in the C-suite, but a couple levels down from that. So when the boss says, the CEO says, you need to get rid of 10,000 people, and your boss says, pick 500 from a division of 5,000, and you have to figure that out in a week, when you're going through resumes and you're going through salaries and you're going through all that, it's not fun, So I would say to anybody, like, if that's a job that you want, find something else to do with your life, because it's not fun, and it really isn't. I mean, but I will say this, like, at the end of the day, like, I will say it's probably made me a stronger person. Like, I don't really get affected by things that I hear from people, and again, this probably comes more from officiating basketball at a higher level than it does from firing people every day. I mean, I've been called every name in the book, yelling and screaming, basketball coaches, parents, racist this, racist that, in this, MF that, all this other stuff, and it's just in one ear, not the other. So I'm sure it's a combination of all of that that has made me, I don't know, as quote-unquote strong as I am now, but I I don't know if it's easy. I mean, yes, it does become easier. The more you do anything,
Sure.
the easier it becomes. You can walk in, you can see who you're looking at, you can tell how they're going to react. You can tell if you need HR in there. If you need to have HR do it versus you. I mean, you get a feel for these things. So yes, it does become easier. But to say, like, to walk in to somebody who's been with your company for 25 years and say you don't have a job anymore, not because you're old or not because you're not good at it, because you're too expensive. It's not easy. And I took a buyout last year from my company, and I'm back. I just started back on Monday as a contractor. So, and it's interesting because I tell people, like, if I hadn't taken that buyout, I would have gotten laid off 3 months ago. So I guess sometimes when you're on the other side, you can kind of see where the writing is. So I don't know if it's easy or fun or whatever, but like I said, I mean, if anybody says, do you want to be a manager and do you want to have the ability or responsibility to terminate people, I would say no, because it's not fun. Nobody wants to be the boss. Everybody hates the boss. Everybody. So I don't know if that answers your
good
question.
enough. I don't mind being the boss, but go on. What's your question? What's your next one? Because I am running a little short on time.
Can the Dolans save the Indians?
Okay. So first of all, what do you mean by save? Like, are the Indians ever going to get foreclosed on? No, I don't think they're good. No, I think they're fine.
I think they're fine there.
Yeah. Look, all this stuff that Buster Olney has been tweeting, I'll be the first to hop on board with the fact that I don't think that a lot of the payroll stuff and the salary stuff and the possible trade stuff and the shopping Kluber and Carrasco to the Yankees stuff, like, I don't think a lot of that stuff is a coincidence. I'm not painting him into being a lackey for the Chernoff or the Dolans or anything, and I'm certainly not trying to say anyone in the Indians organization is out there trying to do mind control crap on Indians fans. But I think at some point you need to get the message out that things are going to be different coming up soon. I think it's very unfortunate timing that, there's a possibility that Corey Kluber is going to be pitching for the Yankees in the All-Star game, under the guitar logo at Progressive Field. But it's probably what has to happen. There are two very distinct sides to this argument. One side looks at the Indians' revenue streams and everything, and thinks that the Indians have tons of money and they're sitting on piles of cash, and they should and could be spending more. And the other side thinks that the Indians shouldn't spend more because fans aren't coming, and the attendance sucks and all these things. And everybody said if the Indians won, the crowds will come, and the Indians won, and we stayed home because it's cold in April and May in Cleveland, and then it's cold at the end of the season in Cleveland, and you get a good 6 weeks, and it's packed for 6 weeks, and then everybody goes back home. And I mean, it is what it is. I'm not mad at fans. I'm not mad at ownership. I guess where I fall on the should the Indians spend more is I don't know. I don't think it's fair to justify for fans to justify what the Indians spend based on revenue. I don't think it's fair for fans to justify what the Indians spend based on attendance. There's too much going on.
Unknowns.
There's too much stuff going on in the books for us to know what the Indians are spending relative to their profits or whatever. That's the first part of the equation. And that's actually, when Buster Olney tweeted his thing about attendance, I was like, I tried to tweet back at him out of the blue and say, hey, I just wish there were more. We knew more about, where the Indians are in relation to other teams and profit and revenue streams and operating costs and all that garbage. And he actually responded to me, which, happens once every 300 times you tweet to someone famous. And he said that he's talked to executives about opening up the books. And there are a few executives who would. But
I imagine the smaller market teams would be in favor of it because they probably get a lot of this backlash more often than we think.
Right, but they can't because
Oh, I'm sure the league won't let them, or whatever the powers would be.
The league won't let them, but it's not even that. He said the other teams have all the same, like all the teams get all the numbers for all the teams. So if somebody did leak, everyone would immediately know who did it.
Right.
So there's really no way to do that. So, but I mean, I guess what I'm saying is, I wouldn't put myself in a position to try to make an opinion on whether to justify trading guys or spending more or spending less or whatever it is, unless I really could look at their P&Ls. And then here's the part where I kind of drop myself out of this argument, other than the fact that I will diligently fight with someone who wants to go one way or the other just by saying, hey, we don't know enough to make this decision. But the one thing that I will say is, even if I did know their P&Ls, I don't know, like, who am I to decide for the Dolans, how much profit is enough profit? Right. I don't know how much money they have. I don't know anything about Paul Dolan's monthly expenses. I don't know anything, I mean, other than the fact that we know that they got that, like, the investor, and his name escapes me now, but the investor who came on and, gave him a bunch of cash, and when they sold STO and their TV deal, like, I mean, there's some stuff we know, I guess, but I mean, I don't know what that means to Paul Dolan. And, people have this perception of, oh, hey, they're rich, they got a lot of money. What's a couple $1 million to that guy? Like, it's still a couple $1 million. Like, right. I don't know. I mean, I don't know what people think about super rich people. Like, yeah, it would be great it would be better to be a super rich person than to, be poor. I sure would love to be rich enough to own a team, but you still have to make decisions based on a million factors in your family finances that, I'm not going to know even if I did look at a P&L statement.
Real quick, because I know you have to go, I will always say this, like, I think the primary difference between, and I've said this to you and Bob and a couple other people, I think the primary difference between fans and owners is that owners have money, and they don't have a lot of money because they're bad business people. And they buy teams to make money first and win second. Yeah. And fans want to win first, and they don't care about the money. And I know that sucks for some people to hear, and it's probably not accurate 100% of the time, but it's probably accurate more times than it is not. That's why Jimmy Buffett's actually a millionaire, so I guess that's fine too. Warren Buffett is a billionaire because he worries about profit and loss and what he's going to get out of it more than if he really likes that company or not.
Right? Yeah, exactly. And I don't know.
That's just the two different sides of this argument, right? I think it's the fans who say spend the money. We pay you. Well, no, you don't. Actually, TV pays for more of the salaries and whatever than the tickets.
Word.
And the merchandise does at this point. Yeah. And again, it's not necessarily fair to either side. I'm with you, but I think that people conveniently ignore, the risk that ownership takes when they buy teams and when they put out contracts for this or when they do this. Like, who cares? They say, who cares if you spend $7 million? It's better than spending $20 million. Right. Well, 7 is still 7.
Yeah,
and if you're not getting a return on it, then it's correct.
Like,
right.
What did people think? Like, if there's some rich guy and he owns a whole bunch of stuff and he's worth $500 million, like, he doesn't have $500 million in cash in his savings account.
Correct. Right. Right. I mean, and the thing is, like, people go, oh, well, it's just a couple $1 million. I'm like, well, do you think the Indians are? I mean, I'm sure the Indians aren't paying for it anymore, but they still feeling the effects of, like, that Nick Swisher deal that didn't work out, that they sent to Atlanta and all that cash. Like, that still pays dividends or takes dividends away years after the fact. You kind of get risk averse when you have those deals. Okay, we'll bring this big name guy in, and it doesn't work out.
Oh yeah, I mean, look, cash flow. That's another thing that I find few people who really have the conversation to understand is cash flow is so much different than revenue.
Yes.
Well, I mean, I don't know.
And it's weird because, and I know this is bad, but like, most people don't have $200 in their checking account, and that's a cash flow problem. That's not a profit and revenue problem,
right?
Or profit and loss thing. That's you're spending more than you should, or you're not putting the money where it should be,
right?
And if you extrapolate that or multiply that times millions or hundreds of $1 million to a baseball team or football team or basketball team, sure, Larry Dolan could make $100 million in a year. I got it, but like, what did he put out that year? Did he put out 80 that year?
And you're also assuming everyone is paying their bills on time. Because if you don't have that $200, if you only have $200 in your checking account, like you might be a really successful business, but you can't. But your collections department sucks or something. You're still going to go under.
Right. All right, I know you got to go. I hear you getting out of your car, so I appreciate it. We will do this again. You can find Josh on Twitter at Josh Flagner and me on Twitter at Damien Bowman.
Yeah, and follow me because I deleted my old account and I don't have many followers left, and it's weird. It feels weird. Twitter's so different with few followers.
Welcome back to reality.
I can't pretend like people care about me anymore.
Yeah. So you should just deleted all your tweets and rename your account like I did. You'd have been much better off.
Nah, it was a clean break. It's a clean break. I needed to get my ass kicked.
Say goodbye, Josh.
All right, bye.
All right, I'm going to let you go. Thank you.
All right, no problem, man.
Talk to you.
Bye.